Electric Chair 2D. Hi everyone, welcome to the Electric Chair 2D. It's episode 6. My name is Midnight Corey. Thank you for watching. As always, it's been a fun ride and we're going to keep on going. Today, I'm going to bring to you a fantastic guest, a very talented author who wrote a novella, and it's going to end up being a series of novellas. The first one was called Huldufolk, and it's all about these Icelandic creatures. And if you listen to the audio show, and I really hope you do, like I say every time, you heard him here several weeks ago talk about this, and so you get to see Mr. Rob Watts. And had a fantastic talk with him, and you get to see him in the flesh, and get to see me talking with him. So we had a good time. Can't wait for you to see that. I also have a beer review this week, which is exciting. It's October. Happy Halloween month. I'm super excited. I've been watching horror movies now pretty much every day in October because it's just the thing to do. And so I just love this month. But so yeah, a lot of greatness for you. And so that beer review is actually a Halloween-related beer. It's actually a horror-related beer, which is exciting. So, now I promised you the John F.D. Taft giveaway drawing. Now, of course, John was so kind as to offer 2 of his books to be signed personally to the winners. And all you had to do was just tell me that you wanted in as part of this contest. The Little Deaths book that he has out is absolutely amazing. And I actually read Bolts, one of the stories from it, on a couple episodes ago on the audio show. And he's just very talented and is very worth going out and buying. But 2 lucky people right now are going to get drawn out of the Hat of Pain to get a copy of this signed to them. So all the names are in here. Thank you to everybody who entered. And I'm really, really sorry right now if you don't win. I'm sorry. But let's just reach in here and pull out a couple names. I'm not going to look. First one is, Xander Kane. Hey. Congratulations. I've talked to you before. I talked to you on Twitter and stuff, and you're a good guy. So congratulations, Xander Kane. Winner number 1. So I'll be getting your info here soon. So let's go back into the old Hat of Pain. See who we come up with next. Our second lucky winner is Phil M. Phil M. I believe you entered in Facebook, Phil. So, yeah, congratulations to Phil and Xander Kane, the 2 lucky winners of the John F.D. Taft giveaway. So, thank you to the Hat of Pain for bringing that to us. And, man, I just got a great show for you this week, so we're just going to get right into it. Let's talk with Mr. Rob Watts. Right now, I'm really happy to be talking with author, musician, among many other things, Mr. Rob Watts. Rob, welcome to the Electric Chair.
Hey, thanks for having me, Corey.
Absolutely. Now, you are from, of course, the great state of Massachusetts. You're up there in the Boston area. And, dude, like I said, I'm a sucker for Boston accents. And so it's really, that's an extra special cool thing, that I get to enjoy tonight as we speak. So that's really great.
On the car and the yard and all that.
I love it. Awesome. I appreciate it. But you were kind enough to send me your. I think it's one of your newest books. I don't know if you've done anything newer than this lately, but one of your newest efforts, which is really, really cool. It's called Huldufolk. I hope I pronounced it correctly. But it's a novella as well as an accompanying CD, and so just. For everyone out there watching and listening right now, tell us a little bit about this project, the Cedar Grove a series of novellas you got coming out.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I knew I wanted to kind of do some sort of like a book series of like small, like you said, little novellas. But I started writing this book about my travels, the stuff I discovered over in Iceland, about the folklore of the Huldufolk and everything. And it was just one of those things where I said, well, I want to get going on the series, but I also want to, work on the Icelandic ghost story. I said, well, maybe I can incorporate them somehow. So, as you read, I kind of incorporated it as, a young New England couple goes and honeymoons over in Iceland. And I figured, well, that's a good starting point. So maybe I can kind of, fuse it with all the elements of the Icelandic folklore and their belief system and the Huldufolk and blah blah blah, and just kind of bring it back to New England and Massachusetts and kind of put a new and a little bit more original twist on the old-fashioned ghost story, pretty much. So I figured that was a great way to kind of tie both of them in because I love the simplicity of, just a haunted house story.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can relate to it. It's, no matter how the story's told, it's scary to anybody who's living in a home because if your house is haunted, you're not escaping it.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, but I don't want to just do the simple little, ooh, the house is haunted and why. So I figured, let me add the whole legend of Huldufolk and kind of blend it in with that, and then kind of leave it as an open end. The story is the house haunted for other reasons? Is it the Huldufolk? What have you? So I figured it was a good marriage.
It was, and I really, really enjoyed it. You do great writing. You're very good at it, and you wrote a good story. I love, like you were talking about, you took kind of the very fantastic, very exotic element of Icelandic culture and the lore that goes into that. That is, not a whole lot of people know a lot about that, and it's really kind of strange to us Americans. A lot of the beliefs. And I found myself really being intrigued by that. And then just reading that you've actually been there. And so you were kind of immersed in this culture for a period of time. And I'm sure you learned all kinds of crazy things that kind of go on there culturally. And so I like how you wove that in. Again, you brought it back to New England. And New England, to me, I mean, I think of, so many scary stories and movies. Especially, I think of Stephen King, as one of the first ones. As far as writing and movies go, that it just kind of brings this old world kind of classic charm to horror, and it's a great setting. So I really enjoyed how you did that. You put a new spin on a paranormal kind of tale, a haunting thing, and it was great. Not to mention the CD. Very cool. How'd you come up with the idea to kind of make an accompanying CD with this?
I think maybe with the idea of, like I said, kind of doing an original type of ghost story and incorporating the Icelandic stuff, I figured, well, why don't I just give it a little bit more depth and maybe add, like a soundtrack to it. I'm not even sure exactly when or how that idea kind of came to light. It was just, I was messing around with some sounds I recorded and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, something kind of triggered something in my head. So it just kind of sounds like one of them, like, Icelandic tones, because I'm a big fan of the music scene over there. I mean, that's just a different thing for me that I could talk an hour on. But, I love their music, and I just figured, you know what, I'd like to maybe touch on the musical culture over there as well. So I'm thinking, well, how can I do that without adding just crap loads of characters and kind of, I didn't really want to take the reader on a bunch of different avenues. I wanted to kind of keep them centered on, the storyline. So I kind of figured, well, if I make a fictional band and I kind of make them part of the story and kind of, as you read, they kind of had their own horrific experience encountering the Huldufolk. I figured maybe I can kind of tie that in with the story and give them their own album and kind of make it the soundtrack of the book. So, in turn, you're reading the book and you're reading about this CD that the honeymooners get from the band, and, well, voila, it's in your hands too. You have it. So I just figured that was cool. A lot of people, I mean, it's really not done. Nobody really sits there, writes a book, and then says, gee, I should put music to it now. I don't know what possessed me to want to do that, but, I did it. It was fun. And it's got a great response. I mean, people love that whole, idea. And also, anybody buys it, they love the fact that they get a free album with the book as well, included. So then I'm going to try to continue that trend with the next three in the series.
Awesome.
putting hurdles in front of me, you know. And
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot of work, and I don't think people. If you're not a musician, if you haven't done recording, you don't necessarily know the sheer amount of work that goes into doing that, and to producing it and recording it all, mastering it, and then make sure it's sounding good, and coming up with the artwork for the CD, trying to figure that out, making that look good. I mean, there's a lot to. It's a lot like podcasting, actually. People watch the podcast and listen to it, and they just I don't think realize all the time the amount of hours. But yeah, producing music like that, you have what, 3 more CDs now to make, for each of the 3 remaining installments. So
make them sound different from the traffic lights one.
right.
I don't want to keep repeating myself. So it's like, I mean, I have an upcoming book ready to come out in the fall, and that's going to have its own CD of music as well. And then afterwards, for the next 2, I'm looking ahead. I have a pretty good idea on what I'm going to do with it, but as you know, things have a way of changing and surprises. Oh, yeah. See how it goes.
Yeah, but that was a great idea. It just brings that added value, like you said. It's just a little cool thing. There are a lot of writers out there and a lot of books coming out, and somebody like you that kind of goes that extra mile. And you're like, hey, I'm going to give you a CD with this, and it's going to be cool. Just it's a little added bonus. And it's again going the extra mile, and I think people will really appreciate that.
Especially in the day of Kindles and downloaded books.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of just whether it's physical books, music. I mean, I'll even throw it out there. I mean, I love vinyl albums still. I just love
good man. Yeah.
it. So, and I mean, I know that all of this stuff is pretty much going to be extinct for the most part down the line. But, for me as a writer, I want to see my work in physical form. I mean, I didn't grow up when I was young and say, someday I want to see my name on an e-reader.
Yeah.
I want to do the whole artwork and somebody's spending money on my work. I want them to really be getting the best bang for their buck. So that was another big reason with the music is, just give them a little something, more of a keepsake. You can download the book if you want, but, you buy it physical form, you're going to get the album and the book and all that stuff. So
yeah, and you're signing all of these too. I mean, you're signing all the books that you sell, which is yet again just something else cool that you're just kind of doing, and it's a little added strain on your hand, I'm sure, but I think goes a long way, and it means a lot to the readers.
And numbering them all too. So I mean, each one is a kind of 250. So I mean, even then, it's I'm like sitting there painstakingly numbering. Okay, number 220 just went out.
Wow.
And come up with the CD, so they're numbered the same. But again, it's something special that you want to give the buyer and the reader, and just I don't want to have anybody buy something from me that they'll read and go in turn sell it on Amazon, and use books. I want to give somebody something that they're going to want to keep.
Yeah.
Why I kept the numbers pretty low, in the limited run. So I think, I love that too. Like when I'm buying somebody's work, I like the whole, uniqueness of buying something that's limited that could run out potentially in the next several months and nobody will be able to have it, and I do. So I think that's kind of, the background to why I did this with the books, with the limited edition and the music and the signing and all that. So
cool. Well, I certainly appreciate it, and it's very, very cool. So thank you for that. So how'd you get into writing? I mean, you've actually written several things, and you've done a lot of other things. Like I said, you're a man of many talents and many different interests and things like that. And so what made you decide to kind of pick up the pen or get on the laptop and start writing and putting it out there? Because it's hard, to put your words kind of out there for the public to read, to consume, to critique, and it's, you're really putting yourself out there. So what made you take that step?
I mean, I guess I could say back in college, I kind of got the bug to start writing, expressing myself. I was taking creative writing as an elective, whatever I was studying there. And through that, a few people had encouraged me, you should just write something for the college newspaper thing, and I did. And I think it maybe started there. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, now I'm on the path of writing. I
Yeah.
was interested in it. I wrote just for myself for a long time. Um, and then throughout the 90s, I was just dabbling in like poetry and song lyrics and stuff like that, just to kind of, for nothing else, just to get the feel of actually writing something from like start to finish. And I guess that was my best practice, but I really didn't get serious until the early part of this decade, or last decade, I should say, maybe about 2003. I started working on a book about Boston music scene, and as I grew up around musicians, and I loved the bands that came out of Boston my whole life, so um, I started working on that for a good number of years, doing all kinds of research, interviewing bands and whatnot. It was a great experience as far as learning the do's and don'ts about writing and editing and blah blah blah. But by the time that it was about getting ready to be published, it almost just felt irrelevant by the time it was done.
Hmm.
I know it sounds weird, but it was just one of these things where it kind of was just endless amounts of editing and interviewing. And finally, I said, you know what, this I love the project, but this is getting to just be too overwhelming with too many things. I need to actually sit down and write something that's like a story in my head and to the computer. I don't want to be typing, researching facts and dates and all this other stuff. So I kind of put that aside, and about 2009, I started getting serious about the Huldufolk story, and the whole series kind of was conceived at that point. Um, so, I mean, through all those years of actually writing and having some stuff published and everything, I'd probably say the Huldufolk story was like the real beginning for me, just because it was something that just, it came to fruition due to just, I don't know, I was probably the most focused on getting this done and getting it done properly. And it was fun being able to put like my traveling experiences over there to good use
Hmm.
just from the knowledge of all that, and like I said, I was able to take all those elements that I picked up over there and put it in the story. So, I guess over the past decade was good training that I kind of just put on myself, but, last good couple of years was when I pretty much consider myself, like I'm a writer, I want to do this. This is something, might not make a full living on it, but it's, just another part of me, another job that I do,
Yeah.
whatever else I do. So,
Awesome. Awesome. Now, my next question is, why are you writing horror? What does you're writing thrillers. You're dealing with paranormal things, and so why do you gravitate towards that as opposed to going out there writing a comedy book or a Harry Potter clone or something like that?
I mean, I don't really think I'm that funny, so I'll just say, uh, in horror, I grew up on it. I mean, my sister and I always grew up on, just watching scary movies and stuff. Um, you know, our mother would scratch her head and wonder, why, what are they doing? But, I think it's just like horror gives you like a real, like, it stimulates you and it kind of grabs your senses and just, it leaves you with, I don't know. I mean, somebody could watch a horror movie or something like that and they take their own thing away with it. But for the most part, people are, when you're scared, when you're walking out of a movie theater or you're, watching something on TV and something really like, affects you to the point where like, once the TV's off or you're leaving the theater and you're still thinking about what you saw and you're going into your house, and in a dark house trying to flip your lights on and you're wondering, what's that noise in the basement? I mean, that's something that comedy and drama and, romantic comedies and all that nonsense, it just doesn't do that to you. So that was always the big thing with me that like, it's just, it's a powerful kind of medium that just, it it affects you more than any kind of other storytelling does to
Yeah.
you. I was always drawn to that.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I do it. That's why I love it. One of my earliest memories of being scared is the first time I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was a little kid, and it was on TV some Halloween, at like midnight, and I snuck out, to watch it, and I couldn't believe what I saw, and I didn't sleep for like a week, man. Every bump and everything that I heard outside was a zombie coming to get me. And it's a kind of, and still to this day I remember back to feeling those feelings and knowing what I was going through after seeing that, and it still kind of gets to me, as an adult, or age wise I'm an adult, maybe not mentally or mature wise, but so what can you remember back to, like, what's maybe like the first horror movie that really scared you and kept you up at night, or what was one of the earliest ones for you?
Easy. The original Halloween, John Carpenter.
Hmm.
I went actually to the theater with my parents. They went to go see it
Oh
back when it
wow.
was like 78,
Yeah.
and I won't fully give my age away, but I was that was kind of the normal thing back then in the 70s. You took your kids, and I mean, I remember not really understanding what I was seeing on the screen, but I knew I was scared. It was really scary, and I remember, you know, the ride home. My parents, my mother talking about, oh my God, that was so scary, and this and that. And for some reason, the next following year or two, it would be on like TV, HBO, something like that. I always had to watch it, and even to this day, I still have to watch it whenever it comes on, and it still affects me to the point where like dark rooms or something like that, or walking
Yeah.
out a tree, to bring the trash out or something. I'm always thinking of that, that figure popping up behind of a car, or a tree or something like that. So, I mean, I guess goes back to what I was saying is, for something to have that kind of power over you, I mean, it's just amazing. It's just, I mean, some people don't get scared. Some people watch horror movies and be like, this is so stupid. There's nothing scary about it.
Yeah.
But for that small percentage of people that actually, I mean, whether you're watching like Blair Witch Project and you don't want to go out in the woods at night ever again because of it, or, like I said, Halloween, I mean, that's just an amazing, amazing thing that, somebody could write a book or make a film that just kind of, even adults, it goes against everything that you're taught and all your logic, but, you know, it still somehow sticks with you and makes you second guess yourself as to like, is something really going to happen to me or what?
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't make them like that anymore. I mean, it's just you're really hard set to find something that's so simple and so gets you so viscerally, because a lot of what we see anymore, remakes, which are remakes aren't inherently a bad thing, but it's not a whole lot of originality. I mean, you don't see a lot of the magic that we saw in Halloween or Friday the 13th, or the first Nightmare on Elm Street, things like that. It seems like there aren't a whole lot of new ideas out there, or at least not a whole lot of good presentation of established ideas, original presentation. Because you can show me something that I've seen before, but you present it in a different way. You got a different kind of story to tell around it, then it works. But I don't know. Is there anything current, anything out there, in the theater, horror wise, that you think's been worthwhile lately?
Not a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, like you said, the remakes. I mean, I know they certainly have their place. I mean, the whole reason for them is to kind of, well, A, cash in, but
Yeah.
B, kind of hook the younger people that weren't around for the original, like Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that. And the same thing with sequels. I mean, we got like Saw 15 or something like that now.
Yeah.
I mean, they make them because they know people are going to go see them, whether they have bad reviews. And I mean, people just, it's a thrill ride for people to go into the theater and watch. I'm not particularly a big fan of the Saw series.
Yeah.
First one was pretty good. It was great storytelling, and if they'd stopped there, it probably would have went down in history as classic.
Right.
But it's kind of going down as just a big joke, a big punchline at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, but we were talking before about a kind of a recent movie, House of the Devil.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. The director was Ty West,
Hmm.
who made that, and he kind of captured the all that was great about like the late '70s and early '80s kind of horror filmmaking. I mean, right down to the point of filming it on like 16 millimeter, whatever,
Oh yeah.
using the same bright yellow credit
I
captions,
love that. Yeah.
yeah, and the freeze framing and all that stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
I mean, if you didn't know any better, you would think you were watching a movie that was made in like 1982,
Right.
on a bad VHS.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
the storytelling was great too. I mean, the writing was just, it was for anybody that didn't see it, I won't, give any spoilers, but I mean, it's kind of a slow paced movie.
Hmm.
Um, some people might not like that, but I think it just does a great job at building the suspense because obviously, something's going to happen. But I think that movie did a great job of letting you know something's going to happen, but you have no idea what. It just really kind of appropriately, built suspense along the way by using the kind of long drawn out scenes and everything. And the acting was pretty good too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's can't really expect much these days, with actors. But I love the fact that he pretty much used relatively unknown people,
Hmm.
which I think is important in horror films. To be honest with you, too. I mean, once you know somebody from, you know, if somebody was like in the Vampire Diaries or someone popular like
Yeah.
really going to work in a movie like that because you're identifying with that character for something else. But when you have characters that you're not familiar with, you're not identifying with them anything else other than what you're watching. And I think that's another important element in horror filmmaking. Um, you know, so I mean, bravo to him for not really cashing in on like trying to get like the big marquee name to draw attention. I think he got the attention from the film just from solid, good storytelling and filmmaking,
Yeah.
and same time paying homage to all the classic films that we all love.
Yeah. I am so glad that you wanted to talk about this, man, because I love this film. It was one that, for many reasons, like you brought up, it is so 80s. This could have been taken right out of the early to mid 80s, down to the hairstyles and the clothes and the music and everything. Nothing takes you out of it. He did it right. It didn't seem forced. Like he was really trying to beat you over the head with this is the 80s, and he didn't have like the neon, kind of crazy colors and a lot of mullets and stuff like that. Like, he did a good job of tastefully putting it in so that nothing's really drawing you out of the story. And it's that's one of the strengths of this. A lot of people complain. The haters of this movie are like, it's too slow. Nothing happens until like the last 10 minutes of the movie, and you just got to sit through this kind of creepy babysitter kind of thing, and something might happen, and nothing ever happens till the very end. But me, man, I was drawn in. Like I was glued to this thing the whole way because you don't know. You don't know when something's going to happen, and the characters. I especially love, and I can't think of the actor's name right now, but it was the main guy who hired the babysitter for the night, and he's been in some other things, but he came across, I think, really, really well because he was actually a very soft-spoken guy. He was very, very polite, and but there was just something not right. But you kind of wanted to like the guy. I mean, he was kind of likable, and
From almost in a sense, like,
right,
your sympathies,
yeah,
which was another great part of that. That you just like you said, you want to like them. Something's not right, but but it's like you got to hang in there to find out why,
yeah,
and that's the power of good storytelling and character development.
yeah. And I won't spoil it either, but it's definitely worth hanging in there till the end because man, once it gets crazy, it's off the charts, nuts. I mean, I was almost kind of reminded of like a almost a Rob Zombie kind of sequence. It's kind of like what Rob Zombie does during like his entire films, you know, for the whole time. That you get kind of this intensity and this kind of brutality. It's extremely brutal.
Oh yeah, it is. And the other thing, the lead character, the girl there. I mean, she was likable throughout the
Yeah,
movie, and that's another hard thing to find in
yeah,
movies. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm watching a movie, and you get the female lead, and you want her to be off in the first 15 minutes.
yeah.
This was kind of like a relatable character. You kind of
Right.
cared about her. Kind of brings you back to like the original Laurie Strode in Halloween, where
Yeah.
like you didn't want anything to happen to this person. Um, so I mean, yeah, it's just like everything you touched on and what I was saying. I mean, that's really the template of good filmmaking and good storytelling. And it was a pretty simple story too. It wasn't like an elaborate, over the top. Like your brain's going to shut down trying to keep up with everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some of the simplest stories can be the most effective and the most scariest. You
Yeah.
know, um, I wish Hollywood or all these indie filmmakers would kind of just take a step back and kind of go for more like simplicity in their storytelling and don't try to use every trick in the book on their first film or whatever. Just trying to unload all their bullets on the first movie. Um, like there was another good one. I don't know if you saw it. That movie Frozen came out a couple of years ago with the group of kids stuck on the ski
On the
lift.
ski lift, yeah. Actually, I mean, it's. I happened to watch about half of that movie because it was on a night. My wife and I started it really late. I think it was on Netflix, and we wanted to watch a movie, and we were tired, and it had nothing to do with the movie because actually I was really digging it. They were up on the ski lift, and I think the last thing I saw was the guy who decided to jump off and broke his
Yeah,
legs, and he's down there. I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then for some reason it was getting real, and I just kind of dozed off, and I'm like, oh, we'll finish this tomorrow. And then we never picked it up again, unfortunately. And again, it had nothing to do with the movie itself that I fell asleep. It was just a bad time for me to even start a movie to begin with. But I wish I would have finished it because other people have told me the same thing.
yeah. I mean, it's like another one where I mean, obviously, I don't think I've ever seen that story ever, told in anything. I mean, it was another original idea. Um, you didn't really feel bad for the characters, though. That was my take on it. I mean, you put yourself in that situation, but it's like that's kind of a movie though that makes you think, my God, what if I was in that situation?
Oh yeah.
That's not good. Ski lift, in the middle of winter and it's closed down for a week and nobody knows you're up there. That was an original idea, and I think they did a great job on that as well.
Yeah, I love that concept though because you got to think that's the ideal kind of place to tell a horror story because so many people I know have thought it if you've ever gone skiing at all and you've ridden one of these things. I mean, you think some pretty horrific things could happen. You're like, what if I fall off this thing? What if it breaks down? A ton of things run through your mind when you're
Oh
on
yeah,
one of these. And I can't think of another movie that's utilized it to the extent that this one has. So it was a great concept.
yeah, it was a good job. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. So, another thing about this movie was that he kind of brought in this element of, based on true events. We have a title card at the beginning of the film that actually I remember this kind of thing in the 80s. Growing up, because it has something to do with sort of this paranoia about satanic cults and all this activity and kidnappings and murders and everything, all due to these satanic cults and how it says something like 70% of Americans in the 80s believed in the existence of cults and that they were doing things, and so that kind of fed into
All day.
yeah, but I remember that happening. I didn't realize it was that widespread. But do you remember that kind of thing going on?
I do actually. I mean, like you said, yeah, early to mid '80s, and of course I wasn't too aware of it back then because my mind was all on like G.I. Joe, Transformers,
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff like. Um, but I mean, I do remember there was this kind of small little. I don't even want to say cults, but it was almost more like a vampire cult or something. They were
Uh,
calling out the South Shore of Massachusetts, where I was, where I'm not too far from. Um, and it was like a group of teenagers that were like performing these kind of sacrifices and stuff, like animals, and I mean not humans as far as I know, um, but I mean I remember hearing stuff like that, as far as like local news. But I do remember like the whole craze back in the day about like satanic cults, down in Georgia, or another one out here, and I mean it was just kind of scary because you don't know how to process that when you're a little
oh yeah.
kid. All you know is what you know about Satan,
Mm.
and now all of a sudden you're hearing about people that are like the disciples, and they're running around, and I'm like, where are they? They're not near us, are they? I don't want
Right.
to. But like you said, I think that was another good throwback that they used right there. I mean, that kind of was an actual, um, happening, like a hysteria that was going on back in the day about satanic cults and everything. I mean, it's obviously since died down, at least as far as we know.
Yeah.
But I thought that was, another great part of, the film that they used was the whole, like, satanic sacrifices and followers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it is really scary to think about, these people. And I mean, I know obviously there's people that are still kind of whacked out and,
Oh yeah.
following stuff. And it's like you said, in that film, it's something as simple as answering a babysitter ad. Now,
Hmm.
that's supposed to be in the 80s, but you can kind of drop from that today. You're answering a Craigslist ad or something.
Right.
You know really who you're going to have an encounter with for whatever reason. I
Right.
mean, Craigslist killer,
Yeah.
there. But I mean, you just never know. So I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of another good part of that whole storytelling. Like God knows, what you're stumbling on in any given day, or who you're going to encounter that's just whacked out, that has, more intentions for you other than hiring you as a babysitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, great stuff. So, man, this is a fantastic film. It's on Netflix right now, so people can stream it as we speak and watch it. Now, Ty West. Have you seen any other of Ty West films?
Um, you know what? I don't think so. I heard he was making a sequel to something not
Oh,
too long ago, but you know what? I wonder if it wasn't the latest Hostel sequel. But I
oh,
think he
really?
backed out of it or something. That's what
Huh?
I heard. But I don't think I've seen anything else of his yet. Um, like I said, yeah, I just kind of recently stumbled on the House of the Devil movie, and I was just floored by it. So it's just a matter of trying to, track down some of the other stuff he's done. I know he's pretty new too, like, a newcomer to the
Yeah.
scene. But you know, I'm actually really curious to see what he does next.
Yeah, actually, a fantastic one that just came out here within the past few months is called The Innkeepers. And it's funny because he does a lot of New England settings. This I think was Connecticut. House of the Devil took place in Connecticut,
Right? Yeah.
and the Innkeepers actually takes place in this old, kind of renovated mansion, big old Victorian house somewhere in New England. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it's a hotel, and it's kind of on the final night. They're shutting it down, and so there are these two innkeepers kind of holding the fort down, for the final night, and they don't want to be there. And this whole interaction, and it is so effective. I think if you like what he did, his style of filmmaking in House of the Devil, I think you really like The Innkeepers. It's not as retro. Now, he doesn't try to go for, trying to sell this as, an 80s film, but
Yeah.
he puts that sort of storytelling, that amount of thought, into it, and it's really, really fantastic. It's another slow burn. It's spooky. It creeps you out for so long before it finally just thrusts you into the insanity. So,
I'm gonna have to look for that. But I mean, that's the kind of stories I want to invest my time in. You know, if I'm gonna
yeah.
sit for 2 hours, you know, I'd rather watch something original and good storytelling. You know, rather than a remake of Nightmare on Elm Street or you know horrendous Friday the 13th sequel. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but another thing you said like about everything the New England based element. I mean, I think more movies ought to be filmed in this area, especially this time of year. You know, coming into the fall and everything. I mean, New England is just creepy looking.
Mm.
I mean, so many it's just all these dark and kind of ominous idiosyncrasies about it. Like I said, especially coming into the fall season. I mean, I think it's just an amazing backdrop for whether it's like a film or like just storytelling in general, which is why I just love basing my stories in New England anyway. Just I'm native, but just by being a native, I think I can do a pretty good job at just the description of like the landscape and just kind of you know give people an idea of the setting and stuff. I mean, I'm sure some good horror filmmaking could be done, out in Southern California and stuff like that. But I think, if you're up here in like Massachusetts and like even especially Western Mass,
Mm.
where you have the old, abandoned factory warehouses and just, our cemeteries and, the weeping willow trees and everything in the background. I mean, it definitely just gives that much more of, an element to the horror and just the whole chilling aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, Rob Zombie actually grew up in Haverhill, not too far from where I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he was,
Huh.
yeah, not only people kind of make that local Boston, distinct, with him, but he did have his roots from here. And it's
Wow.
funny, going back to his first one, was a House of a Thousand Corpses there. I wasn't particularly impressed with the movie,
Hmm.
but his visual, just elements of the film. I mean, I could see a lot of like his New England roots and his
Hmm.
trace in his filmmaking and storytelling, which I love. I love him as a director. You know, visually, he's just genius. I mean, he knows what to throw into a scene and, and to make it great. I won't say everything he's done is a home run, but, it's cool to watch his stuff and kind of see a little of that, North Shore of Boston kind of background.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's even spoken about it in some interviews too. Like, he's like something like a cemetery or like an old haunted house or something that's kind of like shown in something. And he'll talk about how it reminded him of something he'd be walking home from school up in Haverhill, Mass. You
Wow.
know, a creepy little area. So it's cool that he kind of has still those traces, back home and kind of put them in his films. Um,
Wow, that does make sense. That makes a lot of sense now that you say that, and I'm not sure I was ever aware that he was from that area. I guess I always assumed, being that he's always been in bands and now he's doing music and stuff like that. I guess I just assumed he was sort of like a California guy. Um,
and start, and then California. Now he's, out there pretty much fully doing films. But yeah, he did get a start out here. Not anything career-wise. I think just his formative years, maybe until he was in high school, and then off he went to begin his journey.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I think it's really cool, and especially the area he grew up in is, has a lot of creepy, dark little areas, very, suburban, out in the middle of nowhere kind of things, some old factory buildings out there. Uh, graveyard cemeteries out there are pretty ominous looking in itself. So, I mean, I could totally see where he would, be drawing a lot of that influence and putting it in his films. So, pretty
You've
cool.
just so talked me into wanting to come up to Boston, man, here in the fall. Especially if I could get up there, like spend Halloween up there or something like that, man. I think I
Oh,
would
you'd
love
love.
it.
Yeah, I'll take you around up here. I know all the places you need to hit up. Especially being a horror fan and just you know, like you said, you're a fan of the accent.
Oh yeah,
So,
I could just sit there and just listen to people talk all day, and I'd be happy.
yeah, well, I could set you up in a few taverns and you can sit there and
Hey,
listen to them all day. I don't know.
I'd be all right
I
with
don't.
that. But no, I do want to experience. I love the scenery. I love kind of the rolling hills and, like you said, the weeping willows and the old architecture. These old Victorian houses and there's so much history there because I mean this was one of the first colonized areas, coming to the New World, and so this is what has the most history behind it, and so much of that has been preserved, and people take pride in that area, and I've worked really hard to kind of preserve that look and that feel of it.
Oh yeah, we definitely had some trippy stuff happening here too, right when it first started. I mean the witch hysteria
Yeah.
and all. The tourism board will tell you one thing, like it's just everywhere, all over Salem.
Uh,
But I mean, it's still, even if only three people, were hung
oh yeah.
and burned. I mean, that's just a crazy time period, where
Right.
it's pretty much where we got our start as is a country, was that kind of history and all that crazy stuff that was happening. So I mean, I think that lends itself well to um, just fans of that kind of stuff and like horror storytelling and the films in it. I mean, it's a great place to kind of just absorb yourself in up here. There's a lot of good stuff.
Oh, I hope to get up there, man, and well, man, it's been great talking with you tonight and just learning about you, and of course, just listening to you talk because I could do this all night. Doesn't matter what you talk about. But it's been especially cool to learn about you and kind of your influences and where you've come from. Talk about the great book, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. And it's Huldufolk, really left me wanting more, and I can't wait to see. Because I know you're weaving all these stories together, in the whole Cedar Grove thing, and just to see kind of how you do that to kind of fill out this picture of this weird town, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. Where can people find out more about you? You have a website.
Yep, you can go to robwattsonline.com. Pretty much everything is there that they need. They can buy books, learn more about me, signing dates, whatnot. I pretty much have everything that anybody would want from that site. And then they can hook up with me, via Twitter, Facebook, right off of that site as well. So,
Fantastic.
welcome anybody to join my social networks. Yeah, that would be cool.
Cool. I will link all of this up on my website so people can find it very quickly and easily and get to know more about you and buy some books.
Yes, please. Please do.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, it's been great. Again, a lot of fun talking to you. Hopefully we can do this again. I'd really love to. And
Really, yeah, I'd love to. A great show, and you get some good stuff going on every week. So
thank
I
you.
encourage anybody watching this to continue watching the shows because good stuff.
Thank you, Rob. Well, have a great night, my friend.
You too, man. Take care.
All right. Hi there, Midnight Corey coming to you again with another beer review. It's late at night, and that's why I have this hushed tone, because I don't want to disturb any of the other family that's sleeping right now. But I'm really excited to try this beer that I found the other day at the beer store, and it's actually by Great Lakes Brewing. That's out of Cleveland, and if you know anything about Pittsburgh and Cleveland, of course I'm a Pittsburgh guy, and I have a big bias against Cleveland. It's the mistake by the lake, but I have a very high respect for Great Lakes Brewing, and so the mistake by the lake, not everything's a mistake there, and I've really enjoyed all of their beers. So as I was at the beer store this past week, I happened upon a seasonal brew that is just coming out here for the Halloween season, and I'm really excited. It's called Nosferatu. a handcrafted Imperial Red Ale. So, yeah, I can't wait to try this. Like I said, it's late at night and I have no excuse to be podcasting or doing a segment right now, but I want to try this beer really bad. So let's crack this open and see what I think. Now, of course, we're looking at a good 8% alcohol by volume here, which is a pretty nice percentage. But it's a strong American Imperial Red Ale. Supposedly it has a lot of hops to it, which is a big plus for me. So let's see. Here we go with Nosferatu, the beer with a bite, according to the website. So, cheers. Oh yeah, very hoppy. Definitely a red ale. A lot of flavor. The hops are there, but don't punch you in the face, which is good. You get that red ale flavor. Yeah, very rich. Just a great beer. Again, got kind of a coffee-ish kind of flavor to it. A lot of rich flavors being blended into this. Wow. Oh, man, let me have another drink. I'll see. Wow. It's a great beer. It's reminding me of... it's got a little bit of a smoky kind of texture to it. A little bit of coffee, kind of heavy flavors there. It's almost kind of the things that I would expect in a stout, but not going that whole way to a stout. It's not that heavy. It's not that dark. But it's definitely a heavier, darker beer. Approaching an IPA because the hops are there, which I am more than happy with here. But this is definitely the kind of beer that has a bite for your average beer fan. If you're accustomed to lagers and ales and things like that, the hops are going to come out and bite you a little bit. Even though me being an IPA fan, and I love, my favorite beer of all time is Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA. So, right there, that tells you the level of hops that I like to be at. But this does not disappoint. So again, man, go pick up some of this, especially if you're an IPA fan, you like the hoppy things, but you like red ales that are going to give you a little bit of a hoppy bite. This is definitely very good. And again, Great Lakes, man, you impress me. And you are doing nothing but, garnering some positivity for Cleveland. I still hate the Browns, so what can you do? But, here's to Nosferatu. Cheers, and happy Halloween.